Hi there, it's Dellow here, and I've got a technique tip to share with you today, which is using the PaperArtsy Infusions with embossing ink. For this mini demo, I'm going to be using my PaperArtsy stamps, and this is set 3 with the cute little lion. I've got some Royal Blood and Golden Sands PaperArtsy Infusions. I've got a spray bottle of water, a brush, a Watermark ink pad, a template from the Crafter's Workshop, some watercolour paper, and an acrylic block. You can find links for the products under the video. So I'm going to show you two techniques that you can have a play with, and I'm going to start with stamping. So I'm using Watermark, but I'm pretty sure that the other embossing inks will work just as well. If you're not familiar with these inks, they're clear, they're slightly tacky to the touch, and you'll also find them referred to as Watermark or Resist inks. I've inked up the stamp and I've stamped it out as I would normally. Then I've tapped out a small amount of the Infusions powder over the top. Now you really only need a small amount, so don't go crazy. Take the brush and dab the powder over the ink and try and get it all covered. And it really is a dabbing motion rather than a brushing motion. You want to cover the ink with the powder. You don't want to be brushing it back off again. So I'm using a cheap brush to do this so that I'm not worried if the dabbing motion damages the bristles or anything like that. It's not a problem at all. So another thing you might want to think about is what paper you're going to use. And I'm using a watercolour paper because I really liked the intensity of the colour I got using this technique with watercolour paper. But before you go rushing out buying new types of paper, just try what you've got to hand and see what effects you get with that paper. Once you are happy that you have the image covered with the infusions, flick off the excess. Now for the magic. Spray the image with water and watch the colour develop. You want a fine mist of water, so I've got the spray bottle up quite high and sorry it's off screen at the moment. You also don't want to saturate the surface with water. And you can really see you don't need a lot of infusions to get such an intense colour. I'll show you some close-ups at the end of the video, but for now, let's move on to the next technique, which is using the embossing inks with infusions with stencils and masks. For this technique, I'm using a sponge or a piece of foam to apply the Watermark ink through the stencil. If you prefer, you can always just press the ink pad directly through the stencil, but my pad is kind of getting a bit dirty now, so I'm going to use the foam instead. Once you are happy that you've got a good pattern, remove the stencil and tap on some infusions. Again, you don't need very much. I'm going with both the Golden Sands and the Royal Blood colours this time. So exactly the same as with the Watermark stamped image technique, dab the infusions over the surface using the brush until you have a good coverage of the ink. Then tap off any of the excess. Now spray a fine mist of water to let the infusion colours develop. As promised, here are the close-ups of the results of both techniques. So using the infusions with the embossing ink or Watermark ink stamped image, and then using the same ink but this time through a stencil and adding the infusions. Two fun ways to use your infusions that I hope you'll enjoy playing with. Do let me know in the comments on my YouTube channel or on my blog how you get on with these techniques. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.